This is what happens when a demon marries a witch and they both run a church. This story is going to make you catch a cold. And that is why we say not everyone who calls themselves a man of God is really of God. Even the devil can run a church. And you're about to find out in this story how this pastor and his wife came up with a plan to make 27 million rands from their church members. Pastor Melisizwe Monko was said to have first lived in King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where he self-ordained himself a pastor and founded a church called God's Work International Ministry. This was a young, good-looking young man dedicating his life and his services to the work of God, and invariably his community embraced him and showed him support. His church began to grow, and he made good use of social media to garner more church members to his church. Not long after starting his church, he met a young, beautiful woman named Sifosile Samba, who was also a member of his church. And together, they began working on how to expand their church, because this is the dream of every young minister, every young man of God, to expand their congregation. And this would most likely be easy for him because he's no longer doing it alone. He now has a wife. And nothing that a church would love more than to see their man of God coupled up with a perfect wife. Who doesn't love when a church is being run by the perfect couple? This is what everybody loves to see, so that they can be in a good position to give them counseling about their own marriages. But little did they know that the devil they call a pastor has only met and married a Jezebel, and things are only about to get worse. But the church members don't know it yet. So, in a bid to expand their congregation, Pastor Melisizwe began preaching in other communities, in other locations where his church was not established. Eventually, he opened a branch in George, a town where his wife, Sifosile, was from. Now, put in mind that some sources refers to Sifosile as his fiancée, while most sources said they were pretty much married. But the idea was that they were a couple, a power, holy, religious, pastor-wife couple. And part of the reason why he opened the church in his wife's place was so that he could get more people from her side. You know, that is the essence of being a power couple. By virtue of his wife being from that town, he was able to gain the trust and gather more church members. And they were successful. Instantly, their church grew big. In Georgetown, it became a big sensation. People started trooping in. A young pastor with his young fiancée have opened up a church, and this is what we need in this town. And members started trooping in. And one of those hundreds of new members will be a young lady, a 25-year-old woman named Shlompo Mohapi. For Shlompo Mohapi, she had come into a church where she was going to fellowship with her fellow Christians. She was coming into a new experience. This is a single mother of two whom she had kids with her ex-boyfriend and currently had a boyfriend she was dating. This is a young woman who is struggling to pay bills and make ends meet, whose mother is the one taking care of her children back home. A young, beautiful young lady trying to get the best out of life while hustling, dealing with poverty, and also looking for salvation. And in her mind, she had come to the right church. Little did she know that she, out of 1,000 people in that congregation, was going to be a victim of this man and his wife. But she doesn't know it yet. Entering into this church, she has no idea what was to come. Even Pastor Melisizwe and his fiancée Sifosile did not also know that she was going to be one of their proposed victims. So time goes on, the church continues to flourish, new members are trooping in, the pastor and his wife are happy for their newfound success. Obviously, this was what they wanted. However, with one dream established comes the craving of a new dream. And the pastor and his wife decided that, you know what, now that we have this congregation, we need money. We need money. How do we get money? How do we get money so fast? We need a lot of money. We need millions, baby. How to get money? Because clearly, to run a church is going to cost money. They didn't just get all these members by being the perfect looking couples with their weights online. They just basically found ways to attract members, and part of it would be to promise success, to promise prosperity. And that is kind of like what people want to hear. And that could be part of the reason why Shlompo was attracted to that church, because she probably benefits from whatever this church was trying to offer. And for Melisizwe and Sifosile, they came up with the perfect plan to get 27 million rands from their church members. And what was that plan? The plan was to secretly take out life insurance on some of their members, then kill those members in order to claim the insurance money. Ooh, the perfect plan that came out from the mouth of a man of God and his woman of God wife. I wonder how the conversation must have gone in the bedroom. Hey babe, let's pray before we sleep. Dear God, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you so much for our church congregation. Thank you for making us flourish. Thank you for the perfect husband, for the perfect wife. Amen. So when they climb the bed to sleep, and the man will be like, so darling, how are we going to, make money? You see, God has blessed us so much, so we need to come up with a way to make money. And the wife will go, what if we take life insurance on some of our church members and then kill them and then claim the insurance money? I mean, from where to where? From some have food but cannot eat to let's kill our church members and claim insurance money. I just don't know how these people do it. Sometimes when I see men of God who end up committing or thinking of some of the most heinous crimes, I wonder how the conversations would go. Where is God usually when these conversations are taking place? Where is he? Where is the faith? Where is the Bible? Where is the things you post on Facebook? Where do that person go? Where is that person that people usually see on the altar, preaching with a microphone, flipping through the pages of the Bible? Where is that person when the conversation to do evil is taking place? Well, Sizwe and Sifosile agree that that is the perfect plan. Take life insurance on some of our members and then kill them and claim the insurance money. And then they started. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, they started. They did not even think twice about it. Once they had that conversation, probably had sex that night, the next morning, they went to work. Because clearly for them, this has always been about money. Now, to get life insurance on people secretly, they needed their details. And now, to get the details of church members you barely know, you needed them to probably hand you those information freely. And the best way to do it was to announce to the church that there is a job opening and that people can submit their CVs and their information. Whenever they get a call or whenever the job is set, they will be informed to start a job. And clearly, this was why the members came. They came for the prosperity. They came for the success. All of a sudden, this new church, husband and wife, are now promising to give church members job. Wow, sign me in. Sign me up. What do you need? Let me know. Where do I have to sign, Pastor? And that was how some of the members started applying, submitting their ID cards, their CV, their information, their details, even passport photographs, thumbprints, everything that they could need to get a job and everything that they could need for the pastor to get a life insurance on their head was submitted. And part of those people submitting, the very first person apparently to submit was Shlompo Mohapi. She was, they say, was the first person to submit. And when she submitted her details, she became, out of a random few people, the first person that the pastor and his wife decided to target. She was a perfect specimen. A young, beautiful, naive girl. This would be easy to target, I guess. And they were not wrong. They were not wrong. They probably had a conversation with her to clearly know her background. And when they saw that this was a struggling single mother with 2 kids and a boyfriend who had left her with a boyfriend who is with her, whose mother is taking care of the kids, who still lives with her parents, the perfect specimen, the perfect person. And instantly, when she submitted her details, they went to work. Mind you, other church members had submitted around this time, but somehow, some way, Shlompo was pretty much one of the easiest they could work with, because it was her details that the pastor's wife, Sifosile, used to go to the insurance company to take out life insurance on Shlompo using her own person. How do I put this? Sifosile used the details of Shlompo, went to this insurance company, sat down, and made it look like she herself was Shlompo. She went there to pose as Shlompo. She went there to act like she is Shlompo taking life insurance on herself. She was telling the insurance people, the insurance company is called Outsurance, basically. She was telling them that, she has 2 daughters, which Shlompo does, and they live with a mother, and she wants to take out life insurance on herself in case anything happens to her, so that her children will be well taken care of. She took a life insurance of 3 million rand. They even paid premium for that particular life insurance policy. And that was how they began the process of taking life insurance on Shlompo. The next phase of the insurance requested a blood test, like they needed to test the Shlompo. They needed to run some tests on her. I think part of this life insurance is to make sure that the person does not have a terminal illness already, so that, you don't come and just claim it because the person is dying the next day. And since the wife, Sifosile, had already gone to pretend to be her, she cannot fake the blood test of Shlompo, because if anything happens to the victim still, the insurance company might also need some blood test sample of some sort, I'm guessing. Or probably use the test results to match whatever results that the coroner or the medical people would come up with. And so that was how they ended up reaching out to Shlompo, and then they told Shlompo on the phone, "What's up? We found a job for you, but you just need to run some tests." And they told her to go to a particular area in a square to meet a nurse who would collect her blood samples to run the tests. But there is the thing, and this is where Shlompo would have probably figured out something was wrong, because first of all, it wasn't normal for companies to be running blood tests, especially when they've not given you the job. Aside that, she probably trusted the pastor and the wife. So that is the thing with these religious people. They use it to build trust. However, she did not have any conversation with the nurse. This nurse was certain that this was for an insurance policy. And Shlompo, on her own side, was thinking this was a job, an airport job, like George International Airport job, because that's what they told her she was going to get the job at. But that was not where she was doing the test. So she did the test at a separate square, it's a separate facility. So during the collection process to collect her samples for the test, she never brought up any questions. This is why sometimes it's good to talk, it's good to ask questions. If not, she would have known what was going on. They said that she never had any conversation. They didn't even ask her because they assumed she knew what she was doing. So basically, it was in her place to bring up the conversation and ask questions, maybe about the job, anything like, okay, what's up? Is this a normal thing for the job? And maybe the nurse would be like, what job? The job I'm applying for now, you guys want me to do this test because of the job. And she's like, no, my dear, this is an insurance that you picked up. And that is when she would have known. But she was quiet throughout the whole process. There's a chance that the pastor and the wife may have also played a role in, manipulating the whole thing to make her not speak up or ask questions. And then they took her samples and she left. Afterwards, Pastor Melisizwe called the insurance company and made sure that the insurance on Shlompo had been activated. And they were like, yes, the blood test and everything we've done, and the insurance is officially activated. And to tell you how greedy these people were, they decided to kill Shlompo the next day. Like, are you fudging kidding me? They could not even wait. They could not even just say, let me calm down small. They just thought it was easy money because, it was a wife who went there herself to play the role of Shlompo. So they assumed they could get rid of her and it would be easy, given her background, and they always go for the ones that they think nobody would care for. So now, the next day after she had done the test and unknown to her, the insurance has been activated, the 5th of July, she was called by the pastor and told that she had an interview in George International Airport. And this was where she was going to do the interview, which is ironic because how do you do blood test first before an interview? But okay. So the plan was Sizwe would go pick her up at a particular junction and take her to where the interview would be held. Before Sizwe rented the car, he invited one of his cousins named Fulani, who was supposed to be the one to do the killing. Now, Fulani clearly has a history. Maybe he was the brutal one. So Fulani joined in the vehicle. When they went to pick up Shlompo, they saw her with her boyfriend and her brother. And then the brother pretty much and the boyfriend were like, they escorted her. They waited for the car to come. She was able to identify the person driving the car as the pastor, which gave her more confidence. She enters the vehicle and waved goodbye to her family, heading for the job interview. In that car right there, Fumlani attacked Shlompo, stabbing her multiple times, just out of nowhere, brought out a knife and basically massacred this young lady. After she was dead, they took her belongings to make it look like a robbery, and then they threw her body by the roadside near what looks like a swampy area. Then, by the end of the day, they used her mobile phone to chat up Shlompo's boyfriend and family, texting them that, oh, the interview went well, we're done with the interview. But on my way coming back, I saw one of my exes, somebody who had been trying to toast me, somebody who had been trying to get into a relationship with me, and he was with 3 men, and somehow they offered her a lift, and she got into the vehicle, and they took her somewhere she does not know and threatened to kill her if she does not sleep with all of them. So this was a text message that Shlompo from her phone was sending to the boyfriend, and it started looking suspicious because she wasn't on a call. The boyfriend is like, this is weird, this is crazy, Shlompo is in trouble. She got into a vehicle. She even mentioned a plate number was sent to the boyfriend as to the plate number of the vehicle she entered. So basically, these people created a whole story using Shlompo's phone to communicate to the boyfriend to mislead them into thinking that she was picked up by a guy who used to toast her, who had 3 men in the same vehicle and who threatened to kill her if she doesn't sleep with them. Instantly, Shlompo's boyfriend told the family and they went to the police because they knew now that Shlompo was in trouble. Whether or not the text was fake or true, whatever the case might be, it was alarming. When the police got wind of this situation, they could not reach Shlompo. Her line was unreachable and the search began for her. Just few hours later, that's few days around that period of time, some fishermen spotted a body and they reported to the police, and the body pretty much matched Shlompo's description from the reports the family had made. And that was when they called the family to identify the body, and they identified the body to be that of Shlompo. And at this point, they knew that their child, their daughter, their girlfriend, their mother, Shlompo, had been murdered brutally, almost to the point that her head was nearly severed. Nobody thought of the pastor, nobody thought of anything, because this was a pastor, first of all, and from the text they got, they believed it so much that it was when she was coming back that the killing happened. She even gave a description of the vehicle to be white and a plate number. So they all started tracing the plate number, the description of the vehicle, looking for what would match it. The plate number did not exist and did not bring out any information, so it was a dead end for them. Her death sparked outrage and protest because another young woman had been killed, so there was a demonstration for her. However, the boyfriend and the family knew that she had an interview in George International Airport. So they pretty much went there. The police went there to investigate to see if they can find out any CCTV footage of her coming in and seeing what vehicle she entered and who may have picked her up. Only for them to get to George International Airport and realize that there was no scheduled interview. Like, no interview was held. The interview never existed. They didn't put out any call for any application for any job interview. So what were they talking about? At this point, they knew that, wait a damn minute. That means if the airport is saying that there was no interview here, then there probably wasn't any interview here. So who exactly told the family that she had a job interview at George International Airport? While all this was going on, Mr. Melisizwe and his wife had called the insurance company and they were like, time to claim the insurance money. Literally, she had done the blood work the day before, like few days back, like not long ago, a week interval at most. So when they called the insurance company, they were like, that is Pastor Sizwe was on calling on behalf of Shlompo. playing the role of the husband. He was like, so sorry, can I get insurance money now? My wife just died. Our daughters are here. She died in an accident. She was robbed, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. Claiming she was murdered, claiming the group, basically describing Shlompo's death for them. And when the insurance company got this call and they did their research and checked their profile, they were like, wait a goddamn minute, you just took life insurance on this person not long ago. This is suspicious, because this is not the first time that they're learning that our insurance company will know of insurance fraud. So when they saw that this looked suspicious, they quickly informed the police. And this police came in and saw that, wait, this insurance policy was taken on Shlompo, whose body had been found, whose parents had been looking for her, who went for a job interview in George's airport, but there was no interview, there was no job interview to be held for her. So how is she getting a life insurance policy? And they found out that it was her husband slash boyfriend who called to claim the insurance money. They quickly went to arrest Shlompo's boyfriend, who had escorted her to the car for the interview. And when they arrested him, making him to speak, he was like, he had no idea where this, like, he doesn't even have money to eat and feed and survive. Talk more of to go and take out life insurance on somebody. And the police also believed it because it did not make sense. But they kept an eye on him and decided to go another route to trace Shlompo's mobile phone, which they were able to be successful on the trace. And they found it on a young man named Fumlani. So Fumlani was who was still in possession of Shlompo's phone. After killing her and stealing her belongings and dumping her on the roadside, he kept the phone and he was immediately arrested and taken into police custody, where he kept claiming that the phone belonged to his cousin, that he was going to give his cousin. Where the cousin did now, he did not tell us. He did not tell the police nothing of, like, he could not even provide who the owner of the phone was. But he was the one in possession, and so they arrested him. What was interesting is in the vehicle he was arrested in, the vehicle he was driving, because he was moving while they caught and arrested him, they also saw a cloth that contained blood stain, and they suspected immediately that to find Shlompo's phone in your possession and see a cloth with blood stains, they knew something was up. They took the blood and tested it, and it matched that of Shlompo. And that was how they knew that this young man, Fumlani, may have been involved in the killing of Shlompo. While Fumlani was in police custody, his brother, the Pastor Sizwe, kept coming to visit him under a different name. He would come to visit him because he knows now that they've caught him, it's just a matter of time before they catch him. So he was coming to visit him to, tell Fumlani to not speak up, to not say anything, that he will get him the best lawyer, he will get him out, because he knows if Fumlani goes down, he too will go down. So he was trying his best to keep his brother short, to keep him away from the whole thing. When he kept visiting Fumlani in prison, he was immediately suspected. Somehow, some way, they noticed his movement was shaky. And then they were able to recognize him to be a pastor in the community, which is funny because many people go to his church. So when they spotted him and they were like, wow, you're a pastor. And then they realized that the name he's using to come into the prison to visit his brother is not the name that people know him as, which was immediately suspicious. And for him to be connected to this man that is being suspected of killing Shlompo, and for him to also be the pastor of the church where Shlompo attends, they kind of knew something was up here. And that was how they held Sizwe in custody and found out that he had promised to give people a job in his church. That was when they were able to find out that he had promised his congregation jobs and told them to submit their details. And investigation started on him. And somewhere along the line, Shlompo's boyfriend, who escorted her to the car that day she was going for the interview along with her brother, were able to identify him to be the one who picked Shlompo up, as well as the brother from Lani. They were the two people in the car that day. And basically, the police were sure at this point that Sizwe knew something about the death of Shlompo. Pretty much the investigation revealed so many things about this man and his dealings with his church members and his dealings with Fumlani, as well as Shlompo, the insurance company where they even took the life insurance on Shlompo, could identify the wife of Sifosile as the one who came pretending to be Shlompo. So everything just pretty much showed that this man and his wife had this planned out. They were even able to learn that a year before they did what they did to Shlompo, the both of them had tried to kill Sizwe's ex-girlfriend. They tried to kill her like twice because they had taken life insurance on her, and she was supposed to be the person that they would have killed. And every time they attempted to kill Sizwe's ex, they failed, and the lady figured it out and avoided them completely, because it's either probably they tried to poison her and it did not work, or they tried to ambush her, or whenever she was going near them, something bad was happening. So she just avoided them and disappeared for a while. And that was how Sizwe and his fiancée, Sifosile, were arrested and charged for conspiring to kill their church members, because they also learned that aside Shlompo, these two people had taken life insurance on other church members who had applied with their details for the job on multiple insurance companies. It's just that they were taking it step by step. Shlompo was going to be the first person they would kill, and maybe when they get the money, they will enjoy it for a while, and when that money is about to finish, they'll go for the next member, and just like that. That was what they had in mind. Unfortunately for them, their very first attempt exposed them and pretty much landed them in prison. It was said the case went on for 3 years since 2018, and after 3 years, 2021 or thereabout, they were both found guilty of their charges and they were sentenced to about 252 years in prison, I guess, in total, basically. Sizwe was given 252 years in prison. The wife or fiancé, Sifosile, was handed 156 years in prison, while Fumlani was given 63 years in prison, even though he was the one who did the killing directly. But somehow, some way, his brother, the pastor, and the wife got higher sentencing because they were the ones behind it all. It's unfortunate, and it's such a sad story to see that this is how men of God over the years have chosen or proven to be manipulative, powerful, and all they need to do is just get the trust of people, and nothing can make somebody trust you more than religious people. Let me tell you something. My experience with religious people, I know I've said it in multiple videos, but I'll keep saying it anytime I get the chance. The moment I see somebody who leads their personality to be, I'm a child of God, I'm a man of God, I am for Jesus, I'm a Jesus person, God has been the one. If our first meeting, if our first introduction to each other as human beings, and you're pushing God as you being a Christian, I just know that you're a demon. You're a bad person. I will avoid you at all costs. I've had experiences where I will meet somebody who, for the first time, we're about to do business, and they will lead with God. Oh, I'm Jesus, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I will not do such a thing. I'm like, why are you advertising? If you're a Christian, if you're a believer, show it. Don't say it. Stop telling me. The moment they start telling you, the moment you meet somebody and they are going on and on about how Jesus is their all, how God is everything that they have, how they are for Jesus, how they are Jesus this, Jesus that, run. The moment you start hearing, I'm for Jesus, Jesus is my Lord, I'm a Jesus child, I'm a Jesus God, Jesus this, run. Because those are the people who have something to hide. And part of their hiding involves using religion, Jesus, to cover what they are trying so hard for people not to see. Because if you're a good person, you don't have to announce it. If you're for Jesus, your behaviors and how you treat people would show it. Avoid religious people. Avoid it. Actually, these men of God are the most manipulative people, because they know people trust them. They know people rely on them, and they can either use that power to their own advantage, to their own selfishness, or use it for kindness, or basically, in this case, use it for evil. It's unfortunate. So guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, turn on the notification button, so whenever there is a new video, you guys will be the first to get notified.